All right, so for your Bellwork, I asked, where is Rome? Is it a city, a state, an empire? Um, and honestly, I'd prefer you just to try to answer from your own background knowledge. What you think it is, I don't need you to necessarily be right. But I think that even if you do try to Google, you'll find the same answers. Go ahead and jot that down and then come back. Okay, so hopefully you did it and paused the video, but if not, here's your answer. It's all of the above at some point or another, right? So currently it is the capital of Italy. It's a city, but it's been a city-state, a state, an empire throughout history. Most students have had some background knowledge of Rome by the time they get to ninth grade, so we'll see what in this unit is familiar to you and what is new. We are starting a unit on Rome, so Intro, the Classical Roman Mediterranean. So hopefully you have your worksheet. On your worksheet, I ask you to jot down your unit claims. So here it is. The establishment of the Roman Empire changed everything for the Mediterranean world. So take a moment and jot that down. Okay, so for our unit claim, remember it will be your assessment to use the sources to respond to this claim at the end of the unit. So as you go through these sources each day, it would be beneficial to make sure that you are actively thinking, like, how do I feel about the claim right now? Which way am I leaning, right? But before we can even do that, jot down what terms or details do you need to learn more about in order to understand that claim, and what questions do you need to answer in order to evaluate this claim. So take a moment and answer those and then come back. Okay, I think I've said this a bunch, but I am a visual learner. For me, it really helps to understand something if I can see stuff about it. So, for example, right now, Rome, like I said, is the capital of Italy, which is in Europe or on the Mediterranean. So this is pointing out just exactly where it's at. That might help you kind of grasp what we're talking about. All right, so we are going to look at two sources today. Oop, I see a little typo, but that's okay. As we look at these sources, of course, I want you to jot down your initial observations. And as a reminder, when you structure your observations, these first thoughts on it, I want you to consider what you see, think, and wonder. So just make sure you're looking at both the source and the description. Sometimes y'all just look at the picture and don't do the caption or the description, which has just as much information as the picture, right? And then that should say just note some details. So what are we looking at? Tell me what stands out to you, right? Okay, so source one is a map illustrating the expansion of the Roman Republic from 500 to 146 BCE. So go ahead, pause the video, take a few moments, and jot down your initial observations on your worksheet. All right, source two, I'm going to let you read this caption or description and do your initial observations on your own. All right, so once we've jotted down our initial observations, we're going to move forward with observing and analyzing these sources. So the first question says, based on sources 1 and 2, how did Roman territory change over time between 500 BCE and 100 BCE? So take a moment. The images are on your worksheet, but if you want to go back and look at them in the video, whatever works for you. All right, and then number 2 says examine the Roman Empire map. How did geography likely affect where the empire did and did not expand? So we're talking about geography here, right? We had a whole unit on that, whole quarter. And this is, for example, why were the Romans more likely to conquer Mauritania? Mauritania? I don't know how to say that place. And Arabia. That one I can say. So take a moment, pause the video, answer that question, then come on back. All right, question 3. Nearly all tribes or states identified outside of Roman territory were typically in conflict with Romans. So whether they were in active war, at least they were not getting along, right? Which tribes likely posed the biggest threat and why? Take a moment, answer that question, and come back. There's a couple ways you could have answered that, and I do kind of want to talk about it for a minute. If we were in class, we'd be able to discuss this, but we'll try it through a video. The Germans were the closest to Rome, and for that reason had the likeliest chance of invading the empire's capital. Another argument could be made, though, that the Parthian kingdom was a bigger threat because it was so far from the empire's center and would have been better positioned to invade Roman territory, right? Like, so since if you're far away from the capital and you're more towards the outskirts of the country, they probably have the least defense there. So if you attack that area, it'd take longer for Greece or for Rome, excuse me, to get troops there to notify the capital of what's going on, right? So there were a couple different ways you could have answered that, but number 4 just asks you to use the sources to complete this sentence frame, right? And doing these little sentence frame completions just shows that you do understand the content. So while the Roman Republic blank, the Roman Republic blank. So fill that out in order to make a sentence. Lastly, you're going to complete the reading portion of your worksheet. There's a reading about the rape of Lucretia. So I'm just going to give you a heads up. It is about a rape. So just have that in mind. But it has a really big place in Rome's history. And the victim of the rape is seen as like a heroine. So take a moment, I guess it would be more than a moment, take a few minutes, finish that up, and then just make sure you submit it on Canvas.